views and opinions expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Time Warner Cable.
Welcome to The Bottom Line. My name is Dana Connors, and I'm pleased to be your host for this monthly program brought to you by the Maine State Chamber of Commerce. Each month, we take a look at the issues and some of the initiatives at work in our state, helping to improve the lives and the livelihood of Maine people. Today, we're going to be looking at an institution, in fact, Maine's largest educational and research institution. As a matter of fact, you know by now I'm talking about the University of Maine system. We're going to take a look at the issues, what they face, as well as the impact that those issues have on our people, on our communities, as well as the economy of the state of Maine. And who to do that better than our own Chancellor of the University of Maine system, Chancellor Jim Page. Jim, it's a pleasure having you on the program. I look forward to it. It's an exciting time. It's a challenging time. Let me set it up from the business community by saying that now more than ever, we have a strong need for a University of Maine system that provides that high-quality education to our students, that prepares our workforce, that develops ideas to help grow our economy. Admittedly, there's some great work that you're already doing throughout the state, but using your words that I've heard you say, there's more that needs to be done. There's much more that's important to be accomplished. What stands in the way are challenges that are really quite enormous in terms of reversing them and creating that opportunity that we want out of that challenge. When we look at financial, we look at declining enrollment, we look at the demographics that don't work for us, plus an economy that we're still trying to kind of figure out, recognizing the skill gap that we have. Enormous task. I'm hopeful that in this half hour that we can get inside some of those problems, not to focus so much on the problem, but to talk about your plan, because I'm fascinated by your leadership and what you have presented going forward that's to serve the people and the economy. So let's start at the beginning. Fundamentally, to every initiative, there's that financial integrity. There is a plan to address it, but help us understand a little better what that financial crisis is and how do we get there?
First of all, Dana, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak, and very appreciative of you and your organization for this forum to discuss these issues. So the challenges that we face, and they are significant, really do emerge at the financial level, as you mentioned, the demographic level, and we also face challenges that are not unique to Maine, but are facing public higher education throughout the country. So we have all of those pieces coming together at a common time. One of the elements of this is that this is very little about what we'll talk about today is new or people haven't seen coming. But it's come together now at a time when the opportunities and the demands that we act are present. They're not coming at us, they are now with us. Maine, the University of Maine system has a responsibility, as you articulated, for education. It's right there in our mission, to educate the people of Maine, to provide opportunity for economic growth and development, both with our students as they prepare for their professional careers or continue through their professional careers, but also with the businesses and industries of the state, to partner with them to help advance that opportunity statewide, and to our communities, to serve them in all the various ways that we do throughout the state. So the challenge on the economic side is how do we position ourselves so that we can meet our mission in a financially responsible and sustainable way. Now, you've heard a lot in the papers about the structural budget gap.
Exactly.
It's forward-looking. The analysis is continually on a multi-year looking-out basis, but this is not new to us either. What we've got is a situation where these gaps have been with us for many years now, and we've been dealing with them as the years go by on a more systematic basis, early on more ad hoc. There's the old adage, well, let's get through this year and next year things will be back to normal. Well, we all know coming out of the Great Recession that the old normal is gone. So what we have is a situation where we have to right-size the university system in a way that does not compromise its core mission in education, in research and economic development, and public service, and that is sustainable and absolutely remains affordable for average Maine families as an educational engagement. So the team that I lead and directed by the Board of Trustees has first of all said that community engagement is critical. We have to maintain that. But primarily, not just is that the educational experience has to be affordable for Maine families.
Well, actually, you stressed, and it's worthy of repeating, that we have been dealing with this financial issue for some time. We're now at a point that, through your leadership, we've grabbed that, looked it squarely in the eye, recognized that if this number is correct that I read recently, that by 2020 we could be looking at a structural gap of $90 million, an impossible situation for us to really do what you set forth to do. However, I've just been aware of this one university for all of Maine. It's been called transformational, bold. It provides, I think, what a lot of people in Maine have been looking forward to seeing. You presented it to the board, they've approved it. Can you tell us what that encompasses? What does that do, and why is it transformational?
Yeah, sure. It really has three components, an enormous amount of detail under that, but for our current purposes. One is it recognizes the statewide mission of the university system. So we, in order to serve all the people of Maine, all the businesses and all the communities, we cannot simply retract into one location or two locations. We have to serve a multitude of constituencies, stakeholders, and locations. If we don't, a core part of our mission will be compromised. So how do we do that, given that in a state of 1.37 million people, we have what has heretofore been siloed institutions with a lot of administrative redundancy and all the rest, and lacking the ability, by and large, with some great exceptions, but lacking the ability overall to leverage those strengths that we have in our various locations, either a program or administrative or whatever they may be, to the benefit of the whole. So what we're doing is we are sustaining the multi-location model. We do not believe we can take those out without doing irreparable damage to these communities and regions. We are facing the fact that in the state of 1.35 million people, we cannot afford 7 redundant administrative structures. So we are dramatically reducing and reforming how we administer these locations and all of our functions. And I can get more into detail in that later if you'd like. And then we are looking to ensure that we have processes in place so that working with the faculty and our researchers, we can leverage, we can build on the strengths that we have in our various locations to get those groups to work together to the benefit of students and businesses and communities throughout the state.
So let me play this back to see if I've got this right. Instead of the past repeating itself, where you had 7 campuses, each having their own silo budget, actually operating as almost independent, notwithstanding what you try to do in a coordinating way, one budget for 7 campuses. Is it correct to say that each campus will kind of have their own signature program, but instead of conformity, there will be more collaboration so that you're actually able to get the biggest bang for your buck by having it operate as a system?
Well, you put it as well as I could. Thank you. That's the picture. The goal is that the campuses have, wherever they may be located, whichever ones we're talking about, have a mandate either regionally or statewide or both, depending upon the place. And those local needs, being responsive to local workforce development needs, for example, or whatever those may be, those have to be respected and maintained. At the same time, we've spent too much of our time in the last years competing with one another in a way which we can't afford. We need to cooperate, not compete. So what we're doing is the campuses are putting together, they're called strategic plans, strategic focuses. Signature programs are the method being used to identify each campus. What are our strengths? What do we bring to the table that really is unique and gives us a competitive advantage, not with respect to our sister campuses, but with respect to our other competition and what our students and communities want. And then, on top of that, we are building in a process to have the programs, the educators work together. So even though you may have a strategic focus on one campus, it doesn't mean that everything's going to be just there. It means that you're going to be at the table and discussing with the other campuses, how do we put our resources in this program or that program together and create a stronger, more accessible, and frankly better resource, because we can get that economy of scale.
And therein lies your transformational aspects to it, because you've not seen that in the past, at least.
We've seen it incidentally,
Yeah,
and there's some great examples, but it's not been part of our DNA. Now it has to be part of our DNA.
Yeah. And you minimize that competitiveness, or hopefully even eliminate it, by getting rid of the redundancy and those other things. See, I think that is instrumental in helping, first of all, to serve our student, which is a primary source, but all the other things that you mentioned, whether it's our economy or whether it's our community. I mean, that's fundamental. It also speaks to why, in my opinion, you retain a president at each campus, because you do want that identity and you do want that access.
That's right. And you want to ensure that those needs of the communities, and wherever one are being adequately represented and heard, so that we continue to serve the entire state.
So much to talk about, such little time. We're going to take a break right now, but we're going to come back and continue this discussion. I am so glad that I devoted the whole half hour to this, because there's a lot of opportunity here in what the University of Maine system is doing, and I want to be sure that the public understands it. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Are you sick of being kicked out of your bedroom because you snore? Fed up with having to sleep on the couch every night? Then you need Pure Sleep, the #1 selling snoring solution in the world.
The first night he stopped snoring.
The second night it worked, and the third night, and the fourth night, and I was about in tears because it worked.
Invented by a dentist who snored, Pure Sleep is FDA cleared and proven safe and effective.
Pure Sleep started working the very first night.
It's small, it's comfortable.
You don't even know you have it in.
Pure Sleep is guaranteed to stop your snoring right away. To prove it, we'll let you try it for 30 days before you buy it. All you do is cover the shipping and handling. Plus, for a limited time, we'll give you a second Pure Sleep with travel case at no additional cost.
If we don't have the Pure Sleep, he's on the couch.
To try Pure Sleep and get a second Pure Sleep free, visit 3puresleep.com. That's 3puresleep.com, or call 1-800-440-5161 right now.
Look at me. Hey.
Raymond, look at Mommy.
Maybe the light hurts his eyes.
Maybe she's just not hungry. Maybe he can't hear us. Maybe we're not stimulating him enough. Maybe it's a phase.
Avoiding eye contact is one early sign of autism. Learn the others today. The sooner it's diagnosed, the better.
You're watching Time Warner Cable Community.
Welcome back to The Bottom Line. My name is Dana Connors, and today we're talking with Chancellor Jim Page about the University of Maine system, some of the challenges, but more importantly, the plan that's in place to address those challenges, to be sure, as he puts it in his words, to serve the interests of our state, be it our people, our community, or our economy. Jim, welcome back. We left the segment talking about the plan that's been presented and accepted by the Board of Trustees, in which we looked at one university for all of Maine, built on collaboration, built upon minimizing competition, one budget for all 7 campuses, and the value that brings in serving those constituents. Can you give us an example of either of what you're doing today or what you see in the future that would benefit from this type of structure as well as cooperative attitude?
Mm-hmm. There's a number I could speak to. There's some very exciting work going on with our nursing community and others, but very recently a unique opportunity came to us which would not have if our faculty had not already been working in developing these kinds of opportunities. And that is the University of Maine system as a whole was just denoted as a Center of Excellence for Cybersecurity Training in the United States. This is a designation, because there's not an accreditation in this area yet, but because cybersecurity is so important, given by the NSA and Homeland Security to a limited number of institutions that meet a very rigorous set of criteria in terms of ability to train and prepare in this area. None of the institutions at the University of Maine, taken alone, had the scope and scale to qualify. But 4 of our groups got together from the University of Southern Maine, the University of Maine at Fort Kent, and Augusta and Orono, and together they had the expertise, the scope to apply for this, and we were the first. We were just given this designation in November, I believe, and we're the first system, multi-campus system in the country to receive this designation.
Oh, that's great.
It opens up enormous opportunities for our students, both in terms of scholarship and professional opportunities, our researchers in terms of grant opportunities, and of course our businesses who are going to benefit from the challenges around cybersecurity going forward. So that's an example we'd really like to generalize on.
Oh, that's good. That bears repeating time and time again because it does specifically express the value. I want to spend some time talking about some issues that have come to bear that challenges the university. It's probably tied into one university for all of Maine, but let's just throw them out there and see what your reaction is. Enrollment. We see the challenges of a declining enrollment and how that affects the situation I talked with. You've had flat funding from state government, with the exception of this year. The governor has provided some additional dollars. You've had 5 years in a row, you've had flat tuition, only adjustment was for inflation. You've had those types of situations that has to compound the problem. What do you do about that? What can be done to help turn that around?
Well, all 3 are critical issues. So enrollment in particular is our lifeblood.
Yeah.
And it's not only attracting but retaining students. Because we have, in the state of Maine, as you know, we have a very strong high school graduation record, but which doesn't translate well into secondary education. And so we have to do a better job, not just of making ourselves available, but really reaching into the schools, working with the school systems, and finding out, tracking what students' opportunities will be in the state, and working with employers and working with the state government to determine where those employment opportunities are going to be, working hard to make sure we're providing the right programs for those, and working hard to make sure we're reaching potential students who would train in those areas. You know the numbers of jobs that are open and going open in the state right now. That's a very serious matter. We also have to do a major job, an increasingly good job in reaching out to adults, and particularly students or people who have started their college degree or post-secondary training somewhere, but for one reason or another didn't finish.
Yeah.
While that's a national problem, it's particularly acute here in Maine because of our demographic challenges around young people with our declining high school population. So those are all priorities that we're reaching out to look at. In terms of funding, we're very appreciative that the governor has included the largest increase in funding in many years into his budget, and we'll be working hard to make sure that gets through the system. I think it's a vote of confidence that we are grappling with our issues and moving in the right direction. In terms of tuition control, there's a national trend that started years ago. As states began to pull back the amount of money they were putting into public higher education, tuition was, accelerated increases in tuition was there to fill that, to make up that difference. And Maine did the same thing. And if you go back 10 or 12 years and you look at the year-over increases that we had, it was high. And the trustees before I came on identified that as a core issue, and not because we had tons of reserves and could afford it, but they said if we make a 4-year degree unaffordable for Maine families, then our primary focus and our primary piece of our mission will have failed.
Yeah.
And so they simply drew the line in the sand and they said, for right now, while we get our house in order, we're going to freeze tuition. And we're in our 3rd year of a tuition freeze. That's not a long-term sustainable strategy, but it does focus on what do we need to do to make sure we keep affordability on the front. So what we are looking to do is to, through these various plans and programs, restructure and reposition so that we are sustainable on our budget And then we look at whatever you index it to, consumer price index or whatever it might be, make sure that that increases in tuition and increases on the burden of our students doesn't increase at a higher rate than that does once we have everything else in place.
Well, that makes all the sense in the world. Is there a stronger role for the out-of-state student? I mean, when I looked at your numbers, my memory serves me correct, like 83% of our student body in our system are Maine people. That's a good thing. But at the same time, tuition for Maine is a pretty good deal. I mean, when you look at roughly $10,000, room and board on top of that, roughly $10,000, not on every campus, but overall speaking, comparatively speaking, that's a pretty good deal. So it has to be a reflection of our income levels in the state of Maine, I suspect, more than anything else. But when you look at the out-of-state student who pays almost twice that amount in total cost, is there an effort to try to bring those students to our state?
There is, but it's an incredibly competitive market.
I'll bet.
So what are our differentiators? What are the programs that we have, or what are the quality of life that we have that will bring students in? Because again, as you know, if we can get a student here and get them a degree, there's a very good chance they'll stay and begin to build their careers here.
Yep.
So that is a priority. At the same time, however, it is families throughout the country are price conscious. And there's, what are we adding in terms of value to bring in that extra dollars? I think we have terrific programs and terrific opportunities, and we are a terrific deal for out-of-staters, but the marketplace is awash with opportunities for students. Internally, and I think you have it exactly right, we do have amongst the lowest tuition if you just line the various public 4 years up across the board. The real issue, though, isn't how do we compare to Connecticut, but how do we compare in affordability to our people relative to how Connecticut costs are affordable for Connecticut people. And there, it's then when you just look at the base cost, it's not just apples and apples at that point.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, even though probably 83% is a high number, we still want a high number of our own people attending our campus.
We'd like both.
Yeah,
we want both.
Yeah. Let's turn our attention a bit to, well, first of all, before I leave tuition, let me just say for purposes of our public, we frankly led the nation in terms of holding our tuition when on the average the last 5 years the rest were going up 18%, we were holding flat, adjusted only for inflation. I mean, that, in spite of all the other things that you were dealing with, is a major credit to the administration, because that's tough to do with all the other things you're going. So my hat's off to you on that respect.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the economic alignment. There is no question that we are all trying to figure out this new economy. We sometimes think we know it. Well, we do know it's technology-driven, it's knowledge-based, there's a service component to it. We can't forsake our past, but we're trying to figure out our future. I read a statistic that was part of our Make in Maine Work report that said 72, when you ask, this is a national figure, not here in Maine, but when you ask higher ed the level of proficiency of the student leaving the university, going in the workforce, they're 72% prepared in their minds. You ask the workforce, the answer is 42%. Well, whether that's relevant here or not remains to be argued. However, there is that mix, there is that opportunity that represents itself, and that we all really do have to better align ourselves. Talk about what you're doing. I know that you made this a priority. Talk about what you're doing to work with the business community to help bring both parties together. It's not just about you. It's about us as well. It's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
If you don't know, it's hard to address what you don't know, right?
Your earlier description of the future of the Maine economy and whatever specific form it takes as being knowledge-based and technology-driven is exactly right. You go and look at at what it takes to run a machine in the woods now. If you're in the woods products industry, when you and I were teenagers, raw muscle would go out and we could chop wood for an afternoon and earn our keep. The machines that they have nowadays are $750,000, and if you don't know how to run the computers that run those, you're a liability to your employer. So we have to be recognized that the day where almost anything we do is not now touched by knowledge and problem solvings and all of the pieces that you just articulated, those days are gone, going if not gone. It is absolutely critical that, and it's part of our plan going forward, and it's articulated in our strategic outcomes, that we really set up active partnerships with business and industries through the state. The model for that has been Project Login down in southern Maine, where a number of business leaders looking forward, seeing that their employee needs over the next 5 or 7 years were not going to be met on current trends, and if they weren't going to be met, then they had to ask questions about where they were going to invest. So they came to us and others as well and said, how do we increase the number of degrees in these areas? And the kind of really active partnerships where the frontline people of the business community, the people who are really, the supervisors and the rest, are meeting with our faculty and our people and saying, here's what we think we'll need over the next 5 years. Let's look at your programs, and let us come to you with help in the form of paid internships and meeting with students and all the rest. That's the kind of synergies that, if we can build that across not just in that one area, but if we can generalize on that, we can help. We can be best partners in moving Maine forward on this.
And the good news is you've already begun. So you're not going to believe this, but I have a minute left, and I want to take at least 30 seconds to have you share with the public. I know you to be one that wants a lot of engagement as this gets implemented. How do you plan to do that?
We have to be, not just me, because I can only be in so many places at once, and people do get tired of hearing me after a while. But we have many of our leaders, our administrators, our faculty, and others who need to be out engaging with the businesses, with the communities, at the Rotary clubs, at the industrial meetings, and we have to be part of that dialogue, not just sitting there and filling the seat for the day, but being active partners, and that's the commitment.
Well, thank you very much, Jim. It's been wonderful having you as a
Thank you.
guest. You have provided tremendous insight into both the challenge, but more importantly, the opportunity that we have as a state using one of our most valuable resources available to us, and that is our University of Maine system. Whether it's in research or whether it's in academic achievement, whatever we serve, pleased to say you're on the front line and you're doing everything possible to help in all those regards. The one thing I guess we all recognize in this state is that we want our people, we want our economy to be successful, to reach their highest potential and to be all that they can be. And I think what we are speaking of today is the real means to that end. There is no question that if we want a high quality life for all Maine people, we need a strong economy. If we're going to have a strong economy, we need a highly educated workforce that can innovate and adapt to change. The university is preparing to do that. We're not going to achieve what we want without them. I hope you found today's program informative. They are doing their part. Now it's up to you and I. We believe that with our help, with our input, they invite us to be a part of the solution. They invite us to get involved. Let's take them up on that offer. Let's work with them. Let's support them where they can, when we can, and where we can. Our future depends on it. With that, I thank you for being a part of today's program. Look forward to seeing you right back here next month on The Bottom Line. Thank you, and have a wonderful month.